What's up? Welcome into Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and check me out on YouTube, youtube.com. Look for Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment to everything we do here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, brought to you by the fine folks over at Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. If you're tired of that dusty apartment, that overly expensive loft, I want you to consider Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, nhschicago.org. Let me tell you, my mother-in-law, when as a single parent, she was looking to purchase her first home. She was in a lot of apartments and trying to figure out, okay, what's next? How can I get my own home? How can I plant my own roots? She went to Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, and boom, they were able to get her first home because she walked through the process, learned how to buy a home, the lending process, everything else. So learn from Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, nhschicago.org. Time for a new home. Time for something different. Time for you to be able to say, you know what, this is my home. I'm not renting, I'm buying. Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. We love our college football. We love our college football because this is part of the summer of football that we do every day here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. And today we take a look at, well, the ACC, or are we looking at Notre Dame? I think it's the same conversation, as a matter of fact, but we're going to take a look at the ACC season, and we'll take a look at the top 25 as well. And the way we do that, we turn to Darius Brockett from Brockettology. You can find him on YouTube and on your social media. Darius Brockett joins us here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Darius Brockett, as always, appreciate the time, sir.
I'm glad to be here. This is my favorite conference. I'm excited. I don't think people understand. This is about to be the greatest show I've ever done with you.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that people understand that right here, Mr. Brockettology, the man who breaks down college football, is a man who also is a Miami fan as well. So he's looking forward to breaking this down. I would like to ask you first, sir. I'd like to ask you about the first unveiling of the top 25 from the AP poll, with Ohio State 1, Oregon 2, Georgia 3, Notre Dame 4, Texas 5. And then to round it out, it was Texas 5, Indiana 6, Miami 7, Texas A&M 8, Ole Miss 9, and Oklahoma 10. That's how it came out. And there's other teams as well, of course, part of that top 25. But what was your initial reaction to the top 25 when it first came out?
I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I think the biggest question everyone asks is, how is the Big Ten have two teams, number one and number two, and the SEC doesn't this year for the first time in God knows how long. But this is one of those moments where, again, it's preseason. We all have something to talk about. We all have something to chatter about. I didn't have anything wrong with it. I think this is a good ranking system. I think this is how it should look. I do think Indiana should have been bumped up a little bit more, especially now with new information of them getting two defensive edge rushers back who didn't pan out in the NFL, and that's a whole nother conversation. They are returning back to college with that new rule of the fifth-year guys from the class of 22 being able to get their 5 and 5 who didn't redshirt. But overall, when I look at this list, I think everything's properly where it should be. I think my biggest question of concern more so goes on the back end of there and how we not have really any G6 representation. I get it, but I would at least put some respect on the two G6 teams that made the playoffs. But that's just me. Again, I know a lot of people don't care, but how could you not love the G6? It's just so fun. So fun.
It's always fun. It's always interesting once we get there too. When we talk about college football playoff, it's always good to see the G6. But I thought it was fair what we saw there, just from the first unveiling of the AP Top 25. I didn't have really a lot of complaints about it.
No, I think what people want to find a complaint about is, why is this team over that team? If this team was there, even Miami, like I would have wanted to see them bumped a little higher. But when you look at what they lost in production and where they are, 7 is properly rated. Same thing with Indiana. I think those two teams had the most to lose in terms of that first top 10 look at it. But also, they're still properly rated in my eyes. They're top 10 teams. They're respected. I think the biggest surprise out of all of it is Clemson not being ranked for the first time in 11 years. Everyone is thrown off by that. So that's a whole nother conversation. Penn State being ranked is something that I'm iffy on. But again, that is coming with a Rocco Beck at quarterback, Matt Campbell. It's a whole new regime over there. But when you look at that top 10, I have no notes. I think that is a really good top 10.
Darius, let's take a look at the ACC season. And of course, if you want to look back at some of our other podcasts that Darius and I have done, we've taken care of the Big Ten, the SEC as well. And here we are, the ACC. So it's so interesting to watch Miami in this spot under Mario Cristobal. This is year 5, 13-3 last year. The Hurricanes finished 7 nationally in defensive SP plus. So I think they're so fascinating because Darian Mensah, quarterback, transferring from Duke to Miami after leading Duke to the ACC championship. I just feel like in this spot right now for Miami, it is championship or bust. It is taken too long for Miami to be in the spotlight and winning the championship. So, what are your overall thoughts about Miami going into the season? The positives and the question marks you have about the Hurricane?
I don't think it's championship or bust. And the reason why is because the way Mario Cristobal has built this team over the couple years. And me as a fan, first and foremost, I'll take that hat off at the door. I've made it very public. I've been very critical of Mario Cristobal. And I've always made jokes where I was like, I miss Manny Diaz. And then last year happened and the year before that happened. But it was just those ways of not losing game. Like, don't lose those games. And maybe you'll have me long term as a fan, but I digress on that part. But Miami as a whole, I think, is in the best position possible to put themselves in the top conversation for the ACC. So far, we always heard it's them and then there's everybody else. I believe that the gap is wide, but it's not as wide as people think it is. Miami getting Darian Mensah, getting Cooper Barcade, the 2 Duke guys out of that transfer portal, and then going to have Mark Fletcher Jr. return, Malachi Tony. That offense is going to be primed and ready to go. Marquise Lightfoot on the defensive line, replacing Ruben Bain, Armando Blount, the transfer from Missouri, replacing Mesidor. They have the talent to do it. I think the biggest question when we talk about Miami right now is the upfront guys, that front 4. You're replacing 4 of your 5 starters. One of them was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, and Francis Mauigoa, and he started as a freshman. Now they do get an incoming freshman who's going to start at tackle, but again, there's a lot of questions that I have about that interior offensive line. The way Mario Cristobal has built this team over the last couple years has been, hey, I'm gonna get some big fat guys up front who like to push the pile and be some dogs. And he's done it at every step of the way. So I think this is a team that can be in the college football playoff again. But before you even jump to there, you have to win the ACC title game. You have to even play for an ACC championship. How is this the only team that we're talking about on this list, most likely, that has all this talent, all this dominance in its entirety lifetime since being in the ACC, but has not played for an ACC title game? You have the ACC championship players on your roster in Cooper Barcade and Darian Mensah who won it at Duke. So championship or bust? No. I think right now, if you want to play the baby step game, it is ACC championship first, playoff, win a couple games, see where you fall out, and then we can have that pressure pack conversation of championship or bust. Last year was a great season, but it's not going to be an anomaly for these games.
I just don't know why that can't be the goal. I believe that they will run away and win this ACC championship. I think that this is the year for that. I feel like they can make some more noise in the college football playoff, but I'm just saying, like, it was a magical season and a dominant season for Indiana. And what I'm saying is that even though my question is in the trenches for Miami, and that's just, for me, that's maturity. We can look at a roster now and just say that, well, they don't have a lot on that defensive front because of the draft. And I would just say that, if you mature, depends on how quickly the maturation is. Maybe Miami can be that team.
I definitely think Miami can be that team. I just never, with any of these teams, I never put the cart before the horse. The thing with Miami is when you look at that schedule, don't lose winnable games. Like last year, you had all the momentum, but then you lose to Louisville in that fashion. Then you lose to SMU, and SMU is a great team. Louisville is a good team, but those are games that you should have won. That is where you have that type of talent in that team, and you go assert your dominance, and for some reason that team can't. So when you say championship or bust, I think the real question that I always have to put in front of that is, hey, don't lose the winnable games. Don't lose the games that you're supposed to win first. Be the guys that you say you want to be. I hear everyone say the U is back, but it's hard for me to always say the U is back when they're losing winnable games. I can see if they're close contests, but these are games that you are the marquee favorite. You are possibly a double-digit favorite. You have the talent up front in the trenches. You have the talent in the secondary. It's when we look at the Cam Ward years where we would go, well, if you gave Cam Ward Carson Beck's defense, that's a national championship winning team because that offense was just light years ahead, and vice versa. Now with this team, it's almost a perfect blend, but because they lost so much talent, it may look a little bit slower in the first month of the season.
I'm just saying that it's because we're going to look at the rest of this ACC. I'm just saying that if I'm a Miami fan, I'm saying, well, if not now, when? Because if it's not now, then next year someone will spend more. Someone will have more recruits. And I just feel like if you're Miami, you'll always build, but there's always someone that's going to try to build stronger. We've always seen this in the offseason. And I'm just saying, like, you have to catch lightning in a bottle if you are one of these power college football teams. If you feel like you have the alumni base, you have the opportunity to get into that transfer portal, to spend money. If you're Miami, if it's not now, then you sure that's going to be next year? You sure that someone in the Big Ten is not going to spend more in the SEC? So it's always an arms race to be able to get talent. And I just think that you try to do the best you can and try to be at the top as quickly as you can, because you know it can be taken away from you.
1000%. There's nothing I can say to counter that argument. I think we have to look at it. Miami out of the ACC, when you talk about the other guys that are going to spend more, they had to fight against the Big Ten talent. They had to fight against the SEC talent in the arms race, and they came out in the national championship conversation. Also, it was like I said when I was on your show about a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Oregon, every team has to take their bruises. Every team, and I think this iteration of the team is in that realm of this is their lightning in the bottle moment. You got to get a little lucky. You got to have healthy. You got to be healthy. The depth will get challenged a little bit this year. Is this a national championship team? Yes, I will not say no to that. They have to win it if they are in the position. They have no other choice because the money that you spent on these rosters, the guys that you got. So everything you said, I do not disagree with. I'm with you 1000%. They just have to answer that question up front with those big guys. And if they can answer that question before they get to Clemson, then we're having a different conversation. And we can go, oh, this is the you that we all want them to be.
Let's take a look at the Pony Express. Let's take a look at the SMU as we talk about the ACC. So SMU has quietly become one of the more consistent programs in the conference, winning 31 games over the last 3 seasons. And Kevin Jennings is a huge benefactor with this SMU team, the quarterback. There's nothing like a guy that's been in the program for multiple years now, Darius, someone that can be able to say, okay, this is the program I'm in. I'm kind of comfortable in this spot. So I want to get your thoughts about SMU. They have really built a nice program under Rhett Lashley over the last 3-4 years.
Kevin Jennings can freaking rip that ball and like it jumps off his arm, jumps out his hand like very crazy magic. The guy has a building going to be named after him and while he's playing, which is insane to anyone that you can fathom and think about it. But we got to give credit to what Rhett Lashley has built. The first year in the ACC, they're in the ACC championship game. And although they lose, they are in a playoff game. So this is a real big year for them as well when we talk about those caliber moments of conference championship or bust type of seasons. They've built strong and have the best recruiting ties in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I think that's one of the best things we've ever seen. Kevin Jennings has to stay healthy, though. It's one of those things where the team only goes as far as he goes. And we saw it against Miami last year. The guy was playing on a bum leg and somehow was finding a way to still run the ball with his legs, still being able to be a dual threat factor. And when I look at their schedule, they don't have a lot of really games that can make you go, ooh. Like they have to beat Virginia Tech. They have to beat Notre Dame. And I'll put Florida State on that list out of just shock and all concern. But even I wouldn't even put Louisville past them. But those are winnable games. So out of that schedule, you have really 2 games that you are looking at as must-win games. Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. And when we get to Virginia Tech, I'll explain why. But I am very, very positive on Virginia Tech and why I look at them as a threat for the SMU Pony. So this team is a playoff caliber team. If they can get it all together, if they can stay healthy, this team can be in the ACC championship running. I look at them as the second best team in the ACC. And although people say it's Miami, everyone else, I think that gap is literally only 2 spaces down before you go look at SMU. It's not some massive gap that everyone wants it to be.
I wonder, is Louisville next on that list as well with Jeff Brom in year 4? So the Louisville Cardinal, they have won at least 9 games in each of its first 3 seasons. Here's a odd stat about Louisville. Louisville lost 3 ACC games in 2025 by a combined 7 points. so it's tight. You were just talking about Louisville just a moment ago. And so Brom with another opportunity here to try to improve on what they did last year.
Yeah. They have Lincoln Keenholz as their transfer quarterback, and he's one thing Brom does not get a lot of credit for. Jeff Brom has done very good taking these transfer quarterbacks with 1 to maybe 2 years left on their college career, and he finds a way to turn them into exceptional college-ready quarterbacks, damn near NFL-level products that are ready to win games every week and week out. And you're getting him from Ohio State. It's going to be a little weird. It's going to be a little wonky. How well does he mature in that offense? But it really is going to stand behind Isaac Brown at running back. That guy is a freaking monster. I call him the Punisher because him running downhill when you try to tackle him, you get punched in the face really hard. And it's one of the things that with this offense, as long as he's healthy and they're moving that ball with 3, 4, 5 yard gains downfield, you can expect a lot. And then when you look at their receiving core, they got a lot of new faces. I think that's where my question comes in at for that offense is how soon are these pass catchers going to gel well with a new quarterback? They're very young, very inexperienced, but they're going to be doing a lot. But also they have one of the better transfer portal classes that they brought in with getting a lot of young talent. So it's the maturation of everything. How well is this marriage going to just work well and pair up? How fast can they get everything in sync? When you look at their schedule, they have to play Ole Miss, and that's going to be a hard game.
Yeah.
Even though it's a non-conference game, it still matters. SMU, Pitt, those are games that you don't shrug off lightly, maybe even Georgia Tech as well. So Louisville is in that conversation. The ACC is one of those things that's so open, so you can never say, oh, they're out the conversation for being in the ACC title game. And again, Jeff Brom, oddly enough, when I first discovered him, it was in the most weirdest way possible. In my head, he was always the head coach until someone flashed back to the XFL moment, and he was like, are we here to play football? Yes, sir. And I was like, oh, that's the guy? Oh, my God.
Concussed.
Yeah, like dude, you were knocked out, and now you're a college coach. Like that's a crazy introduction for me. But it reflects his team though. Like that attitude reflects his team. They're going to punch you in the face. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to be aggressive. And when you say those games they lost were combined 7 points, that shows how good that team really is. Now again, a lot of talent is gone. Isaac Brown is going to be your lead guy. Lincoln Keenholz. But I do have confidence in this team. This is another 8-win season for them.
See, I was going to ask you because I couldn't figure them out. And every season, as you well know, Darius, I don't have to tell you this, but for our listeners and viewers, we know football and we know that every season has its own complexion. So I give that stat about how close those games were that they lost, but I'm not sure if they're 10-2 or 7-5 this season. And it looks like you split the gap because you have at least 8 this year. So, yeah.
And it's a friendly 8 because, again, they can beat Kentucky. They can beat North Carolina, obviously. They can beat Florida State. Like, again, every time, even on my own podcast and on my own stuff, any given Saturday, and I know you get tired of me saying it, but it's how I feel. As much as I want to say, oh, this team is clearly the best, I'd be like, we got to see it on the grass. We got to see it on the turf because at any given Saturday, Louisville, the same team that should have got trounced by Miami last year, made Carson Beck look like the year before Carson Beck at Georgia with 4 interceptions before they go on their run. So any given Saturday.
Don't remind me.
Third round pick, by the way. 3rd round. Miami did something Georgia didn't do with them. We took care of some business.
You're right. You did. You paid him more. We move now to Clemson. So good old Dabo, year 18. We ain't going recruiting. We ain't going to get in the portal. We ain't do that. All right. Well, how about this? 7-6 in 2025. And I'm sure he got tired of the alums and the talk shows down there saying, hey, man, you better be able to compete. Let's get into the portal. So now that he's put his foot in it, Darius, as far as trying to do like what all college programs try to do or have done, how much better will Clemson be this year?
I don't know. You talk about teams with the biggest question mark. Clemson's my team with the biggest question mark because we just don't freaking know. And first and foremost, I feel bad for Dabo. The guy was handcuffed, had to go into the portal, go get a linebacker, just for the linebacker to arrive for only a week and then go, I'm gonna go to Ole Miss. They're offering me a little bit more money. Like tampering becomes a thing. Now it's a whole uproar. I feel bad for Dabo. He's a great coach. And you talk about that record 7-5. They had more players drafted than they had wins. And that's shown that they have the NFL talent and NFL roster. For some reason, they just couldn't put it together. I think the biggest question mark is at quarterback with Chris Vizina. What does he look like? He sat and waited. He sat and waited and sat and waited. So now this is really his chance. But we don't know. Brian Wesco Jr., can he be healthy? He's a freaking monster receiver, but the defense should be good because they had a top 10 defense. It's just offensively, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't push the ball downfield. They couldn't do anything. And that's the biggest stranger things of questions that we have. And I think we're going to have to know about this team sooner rather than later because they have to play LSU to kick the season off. Like, geez Louise, talk about having to be ready right then and there. You have to play LSU, Miami, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, South Carolina. That is a freaking gauntlet of a schedule. But I just can't make this team out. And Dabo said, we're just a bunch of nobodies. Like he said it in a press conference. He was like, no standouts here. We're just a bunch of nobodies, which makes me want to buy into him. It makes me want to go, okay, 9 or 10 wins. I can see it. But again, we don't know. So it's like, I have so many question marks that I'm just trying not to figure out and point the pieces right away. But I'm also sitting here with the evil maniacal hands clasped together, just like, all right, you can talk me into it if you go on a good win streak.
Yeah, since you believe Dabo Sweeney, you probably should. Says we're a bunch of nobodies. Yeah, you kind of are. All good. I know what he's trying to do there, trying to sandbag people. But let me just tell you, it went from the ACC standard, Clemson, like you knew that they'd be in the mix, to a team that doesn't belong on the same field as Miami. And you're going to see that this year. You're going to see like
was
that.
Was this not a team in the playoffs 2 years ago? That's the thing. We're all talking about this, and we're upset at Dabo. 2 years ago, he was in a playoff. Last year, it's a one-off. I get it. The roster still shouldn't have, even that playoff year, wasn't a national championship team. They just happened to be good at the right time. But you got to give credit where credit is due. He's coaching his butt off. So, and for all we know, Vazee may be a freaking all-star.
Listen, he's coaching his butt off, but of course, it's college football. It's about results. It's what it is, man. And I just don't. I do not believe that Dabo, because he puts his head down and he has these long speeches and he's affable with the media. That doesn't matter to me. I just feel like for him to be able to be up there and just cannot just go along with the flow about how college football is going as far as the portal and turn his back on it, man. You don't have years in which you could just skip just because you've been in football for a long time. He's not some tenured professor that you can't question. He's not.
Oh, I agree.
So what I'm saying is that he's got to show me that he can try to get back on top. I just feel like when we talked about Miami, you talk about Clemson, I feel like it's a huge gap.
It's two different conversations
to me. Now. Yes.
And the weird part is right now I can't disagree with that statement because we've seen Miami just go up and we saw Clemson just stagnate and we haven't seen nothing else. And then they had that massive fall off. So I can't argue that and say it's wrong. That's why when you talk about question marks, I'm sitting here like everybody, shoulders up, making the I don't know face every 5 seconds. I want to believe in this team. Tate Reynolds could be the starting quarterback by week 3, week 4, and then the offense is humming. Or the vice versa, the offense could be slower. We just don't know. Like the defense, I believe in. They have a lot of returning talent on the defensive end. They got some defense alignment out the portal. So he did go portaling. He got some good guys. But his linebacker position is one of those ones that we want to believe in because the veteran talent. But then when you had a guy out the portal go to Ole Miss who would have been your green dot, for those who don't know, would have been your Mike linebacker, that changes a lot. Because how fast can the younger guys pick up the defense? I don't know. I want to sit here and say, oh, they're a 9-win, 10-win team. They could be an 8-win, 9-win team. They could be a team that's barely scratching the New Year's Six, or they could be a team that's playing in the Duke's Mayo Bowl or the Military Bowl or the Gasparilla Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I could tell everybody, bet the farm on Clemson like we usually do back in the past. Nope. Sorry.
No, I can't do it either. We should go to Blacksburg and talk about Virginia Tech. So how about this, Darius? I wasn't the biggest James Franklin fan as far as personality, but I cannot deny the results because that's great stuff that he did at Penn State from a one-loss standpoint. The big game, it was always tough for him. But I feel like James Franklin, fresh coat of paint, Virginia Tech, blank canvas, can be able to do something at Virginia Tech. I know you want to talk about them, but I feel like away from Penn State and that pressure cooker, right? You it don't matter what you do, you'll never be as big as Joe Pa. I feel like he could
No.
do something here.
And the weird part is,
Hmm.
I believe he can do it in year one.
Yeah.
I'm high on Virginia Tech, like freakishly high. And I know everyone is very bullish on him, but you're getting a guy who got fired for averaging 10 wins a year. Like that's what's coming to Virginia Tech. That's what's coming to Blacksburg. A guy that averages 10 wins. Now I know when you look at that roster and you go, "Oh, it looks like a band of misfits." Remember that freshman class that is at Virginia Tech would have been at Penn State. So that's a top 15 recruiting class just with freshmen alone. Then you add the Penn State guys who transferred out of that program to come to Virginia Tech. Make that even more of a top 15 class. It's I have so many questions, but I think all the answers get solved. You look at Ethan Grunkemeyer at quarterback, who started at Penn State on the back end when Drew Aller got hurt, and oh my goodness, the guy's arm is amazing. He has a chance to be a superstar. He uses his legs. They will have some receivers there. The question that everyone will ask is, what is Brent Pryor going to do as the defensive coordinator? Like, why would you bring him back? But I think that's even good as well, because that was Coach Pryor's claim to fame, was having an aggressive defense. That defense should be able to maintain and still have consistency at that. It is going to be a consistent defense versus a defense that we saw that has to get readjusted to a new lingo and new verbiage all over again. I am very, very high on this team. Do I think they're a college football playoff team? No, not at all. But do I think they can finish fourth in the ACC? Do I think they can possibly put themselves in a conversation for the ACC championship when we get into the back end of November, December? Yes, I do. And I know it's weird. I know it's weird. But when I look at that schedule, you have Clemson, you have SMU in those late season matchups. You got Miami. Those are 3 games that you either have to win or make it look really good. I think they can beat Clemson. I think they can beat SMU. The only team I don't think they can beat right now is Miami. And we saw how that game played out with some of those guys last year. But when you look at this team, when you look at the recruiting class, when you look at what's going to be on the field, Ethan Grunkemeyer, the run game, the pass game, it has potential. And I know I sound mad. It sounds like how I talked about South Carolina. And gosh darn it, it is. Gosh darn it, I am. And call it whatever you want. I think they can be an ACC contending team by year one.
That's strong. That's really strong for James Franklin. That's for sure. There's a number of other teams we want to talk about. But just one more, and then we're going to kind of look at the big games in the ACC. And then, of course, we got to talk about someone who's ACC light, and that'll be, of course, the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame. We'll get to them in a little bit. Virginia, that was fun, Darius. While I'm watching Miami and my mouth is open and my eyes are open, like, wow, look at Miami. Like, look at this team. They could do it this year. And it's like, wow, that's aesthetically pleasing football from Miami. Then I'm watching Virginia over here on monitor 3, right? And I look over, I'm like, damn, look at the improvement. So from a points per from an offense standpoint, you were in the low 90s, almost 100th in the country in offense. You went to 56th. You go from 86th to 19th on defense. The defense is the thing that stood out to me the most about this, but a huge improvement for Virginia. I'm just wondering, is this real for 2026? Can they keep that momentum going? Because that was some entertaining football from Virginia that I was watching.
I think the biggest question is, like you said, can they show that this is real? The 11 wins is now going to become something that used to be a fake thing, but now can be very real, especially when you were able to put yourself the front runner of the ACC last year because of how everything played out, and just to fall to Duke. You have to win those games and win convincingly. And it starts with Bo Pribula that you get to transfer in. It starts with having a receiving core that is going to be a little sketchy because, again, another set of guys that's very inexperienced and wanting to do some things. But Tony Elliott has developed talent. That is one thing he's done very well with his roster, is have these guys ready to play every single week, week in, week out. Schedule-wise, I'm not sure. Again, they avoid like some major games against Miami. They have NC State on the road. They have SMU in October and then Virginia Tech. So those are winnable games. I don't know if we can say that's here to stay with them being a 10-win team consistently, but I can also put them in a 8-4 conversation, being somewhere in that middle of the pack. The thing about the ACC is those middle of the pack teams either have a chance to be really freaking good or really freaking bad. Yeah. It's a light switch. And that's where they've always sat with me, is what type of team are we getting? Defense will definitely be the anchor. You have Cam Robinson, who's going to be phenomenal. when it comes with that. The linebacking core is going to be really good. They're going to be very aggressive. But to answer your question in that full, complete statement is, who are they? It is we will have to see, because they're not going to be a team that can win every game by 2 touchdowns or 2 scores. Some of them are going to be grind outs. That's the one thing that I love about this team. They can do it in both ways, in both fashions, but the level of consistency is what will come into question.
My guy Thomas Jones, who ran the rock for Virginia, actor now, being Mary Jane, and yeah,
Yeah.
he went to Virginia. He was a Cavalier.
And now he's a thespian.
Yeah, he is. Very
Hey,
much so.
I love it. It's weird when you see football players have acting jobs. Like, whenever we bring those things up, I think of Nnamdi Asomugha. Like,
Yes.
he used to be a lockdown. I digress.
Oh man, watching Thomas Jones in bedroom scenes with the now Mrs. Dwayne Wade with Gabrielle Union. I digress. Saw a lot of that. Boy, she was into it apparently. So it's nothing like buying your competition. That's what the Miami Hurricanes did. Hey Duke, where are you down there, Duke? Oh, looks like you lost some players. Poor Manny Diaz. Poor Manny Diaz. It's almost like it was personal. Y'all took some skill position players. I'll look at them. I mean, 18-9 through 2 seasons, the defending ACC champion, and nowhere to be found. They're right back to being Duke, I think, this season. I think that's pretty clear.
It costs to do business. And it's very unfortunate. And I say that tongue in cheek. It sucks for Manny Diaz, because I love Manny Diaz. Even when he was at Miami, I love him at what he's done at Duke. I even loved him when he was a coordinator at Penn State. The guy knows how to win, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. We're going to see Walker Etch come in at the quarterback spot for Duke, which is very weird. From San Jose State, I want to believe in Duke. Well, not San Jose. Yeah, San Jose State.
Yeah.
I want to believe in Duke. But again, they barely got by in the ACC championship if it wasn't for Miami's collapse. So I don't think this is a team that I'm high on. I won't even sit here and try to say they're a 9-win team. They have to beat those guys like James Madison, and they can't. But when you look at their schedule, they have to play Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia, NC State, Wake Forest, and Illinois. Nothing sounds good on that schedule. And they're one of the few teams that have to play a 9-game conference schedule, which is also very weird in the ACC, with odd number of teams. So it's very unfortunate for them that they're getting punished with an extra conference game, even though they won the conference last year.
Some quick hitters for you. Quick hitters, because we got to get to the some of the big games in the ACC we look forward to this year. Okay, so Haynes King and Georgia Tech. Your thoughts on them quickly.
I love Georgia Tech. I think the weird part is, now with Haynes King gone, I think not Aaron Philo, Little Mendoza, getting Alberto Mendoza and being named the starting quarterback early is going to be very crucial to what they do. We know he can run the ball a little bit. We didn't get to see a lot of Little Mendoza, but it's going to be fun. I think the run game is still going to be very much part of their offense. I think this year they now flipped the philosophy of now leaning heavy on that defensive side of the ball, having to do a lot more stops. But that back half of the schedule is Pitt, Clemson, Louisville, and Georgia. That's kind of hard to get over. Are they going to win the ACC? Probably not. But again, another 7-5 or 8-win season. Could you put yourselves in that conversation of 9 wins? I can agree.
Roller coaster NC State, CJ Bailey and the Wolfpack. Started off 4-4, finished 8-5. But that's a name that we got to keep our eyes on. CJ Bailey will run all over the field.
He will. And you talked about development with Kevin Jennings at SMU. CJ Bailey's the same way. Stayed in the system where after the end of last year, he talked about how people were calling him and wanting to see if he was going to hit the portal and things like that. I think they have a very easy schedule. They have one of these soft schedules. When you look at it, Vanderbilt, Duke, Florida State, they don't play Miami, SMU, or Clemson. So they have by far one of the best chances to get 10 wins. And I believe in Dave Doran and what he does there. I think they could be a 10-win season. They could be a team that we could see in a New Year's Six Bowl even.
Does Mike Norvell get fired at Florida State? 13-1, 2-10, 5-7. Fired?
I hope not. He's a good coach, but he hasn't done what a lot of coaches need to do, and that's win and develop the young guys that's on that roster. One of the things that he's lacked a lot has been recruiting and having to go to the portal. And I think a lot of us are still holding on to that 13, that 21, 22 year where they were undefeated. And because the quarterback is gone, they miss out. But they got Ashton Daniels, who won the starting job. It's going to be it's a lot of things you got to replace. Gus Malzahn is gone. The offensive line is going to look completely different. It just depends on how they look when they come out and play Alabama. I think that'll be the game. And I know that's early. It kicks off the season for a lot of people. Seeing how that game is played out, it'll tell us everything we need to know where the mentality of this team is at, because Mike Norvell has the chance to be a good coach, but he also has a chance to be gone. The real question is Florida State going to pay that buyout this year, or are they just going to let it rock depending on what type of coaches that come hot and new names that we're going to see on the board?
I think that'll be all from Mike Norvell, because it's not our thoughts on Florida State. It's how Florida State people and alums look at the program. See, there's programs like Florida State and Nebraska and Penn State that feel like that they should be at the top every single year. There's a lot of programs like that, but I'm just talking about the programs that have been dry, that have not been able to win a championship in a while. And I just think that if you're not Miami or SMU or Louisville or even Clemson, we talked about, if Florida State is not in that echelon, it's over. That's just it. Like, if they feel they should be at least in the top four, we went 30 plus minutes. We haven't even got to Florida State for a reason. Is because we don't see the upside like we do with those other top teams.
In order for Norvell to save his job, they have to go bowling.
Wow.
Six wins is the threshold, and that's saying a lot. And like you said, the fan base will look at it and go, "What the heck are we paying you all this money for?" Well, he shouldn't have got that extension when he only, after just going to the college football playoffs one year, and then, or attempting to go to the college football playoffs one year, and then when the whole Nick Saban retiring, you're offering this man an extension after the year you guys had, and it wasn't even the best year, but you're doing it so he doesn't get enticed by Alabama. Now you're more in the hole. It's just, who's going to cough up that money? I think that's the biggest scary thing. We're in an age now where, are you coughing up the money to get rid of a guy? Are you coughing up money to keep a guy? Or did you find the right guy? Either way, you're going to be in a hole. And I always look at LSU right now, where Ed Ogeron was still getting paid when Brian Kelly got hired. Brian Kelly's going to get paid while Lane Kiffin is on that roster right now. And we could possibly see the same thing in about 3-4 years if that doesn't work out. So if you're those athletic departments, you got to be more cautious how you hand out those contracts.
You want to go viral?
Sure.
Okay. Does Bill Belichick last the season at North Carolina?
No. Ooh. When you say go viral, I thought we were going to say something like controversial and edgy, man. Like, this is Bill Belichick. It sucks. I think his best coaching years were kind of left behind him at New England. And that's the sad part, because he's really a great coach, but I don't think he was prepared for what this world of college football was and what this world of college athletics as a whole is. He's not going to be the personality that's going to get out and recruit and do the dance like we saw Nick Saban do with the families and all those things. Then all the off the field stuff, like Michael Lombardi wanted this to be the 33rd NFL team, and now he's dismissed from the program. Steve Belichick is gone. He's been dismissed due to a sickness or something, or medical leave. So a lot of things that we wanted to come out of North Carolina in terms of positivity has been the exact opposite. Quarterback room was a shambles, and we were all excited that week 1 year last year when they drove down the field and scored, and we were like, oh, this is what the North Carolina era is going to look like. And unfortunately, I've always said this: if you were going to perform like this, you should have just kept Mac Brown. Mac Brown was a great head coach for North Carolina. He was solid. He was consistently getting those guys 8 wins. So the fact that they didn't even sniff that last year, when you fire a coach to come bring in another Hall of Fame coach, that just says a lot. Is this his last year? Yeah, I think he's done after this. But again, his buyout's not as heavy as people think it is. Granted, $40 million is $40 million, but I'd rather that than a $70 or $80 million buyout any day if I'm one of these programs. And you're a middle of the pack program at that. You're a basketball school. Like, you swung and you miss. And that's just one of those things that you got to live with if you're the North Carolina faithful.
If you are Bill Belichick, you have all the confidence in the world because you got a great resume from the National Football League. But you thought you could just walk to North Carolina, walk into the door, and just be able to dominate as a 33rd team in the National Football League, in college football, whatever, right? Bill Belichick And this whole situation has been a joke. It has been.
Yeah.
It has just been unfortunate to watch Bill Belichick go in. And I'm not saying that he destroyed one of the great college football powers, because North Carolina is not. It never has been. However, you've gone backwards as a school because you have a guy that's up in age, that knows about the National Football League, but knows nothing about coaching college players. Anytime you hear the whispers around Chapel Hill about Bill not really working and talking to recruits, not working with the parents, kind of ignoring people. This is not the NFL where you could just be into your office in Foxborough and close the door and just try to scheme up for Sunday. It's a whole thing where you have to be out there to be able to talk to people, talk to parents, talk to
It's
recruits.
a people
And
business.
he doesn't do that, Darius. So he's going to get what he deserves. He's got his boat in Nantucket. He's got his hot little girlfriend and all that. That's great for him. But as far as the football program is concerned, he's not doing enough to help North Carolina, and he won't be around to be able to help North Carolina for the future. So happy retirement, Bill Belichick, after this season, because that'll be all.
Most likely. Again, college athletics is a people business, and when you're not a people person, you have the chance, you have times to show you can rub people the wrong way. And I think it sounded good in the moment because we're like, we know what you can do, we know what your defenses can be. You've done it in NFL with lesser talent, but this is college where you can't do that with lesser talent. You can't take a 2-star guy and make him into a 5-star guy, because that's just not how it's going to work here. Someone's going to pay that guy to go leave. And unfortunately, yeah, I believe this is the last year we've seen of him, unless it's a grace period and they let him get one more under his belt. But I don't really see it happening.
Let's take a look at some of these games here for the ACC. Do you have November 7th open on your calendar? Anything you're doing there on that day?
Oh yeah, sit on my couch and watch TV all day. That's one of the greatest weeks of college football. What are we talking about here? You think I wouldn't have anything to do on November 7th? Then we have the greatest Peacock game of all time, Catholics versus convicts. What are we talking? What am I? You think I'm just not going to have November 7th free?
I was being facetious.
I know. I just
it is Miami at Notre Dame on Saturday, November 7th, which is going to be huge, huge, huge. Some of the other games, just to see Clemson against the U in that spot as well in October. Virginia Tech against Clemson. We just talked about Virginia Tech before with James Franklin, to see what that looks like against Clemson. We've got Florida State. That is the can Mike Norvell beat the legend and Dabo Swinney. SMU, we just talked about them earlier on in this podcast. SMU against Louisville in September as well. So a lot of big games in the ACC, but none bigger than November 7th.
I think that's going to be the best game out of the slate of November 7th. And when it comes to that night game, because this is the storyline of revenge, playoff implications, all wrapped in one, is going to be so much fun to see. But outside of that matchup, I think Clemson, Miami is also a good game, which is saying a lot because how we just talked about it, that talent gap should feel so far. But who knows, by the time we get to those games, it's very close. Miami, Notre Dame, though, that's where that storyline hits everything the most. I think a lot of emotion will come out. It'll be CJ Carr will be fantastic. We saw him his freshman year last year, and he almost won that game if it wasn't for Miami having a better defense to close it out. But that second half of CJ Carr was damn near perfection. Now, unfortunately, that offense is going to look different, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that is by far one of the favorite games. It's number one for a reason on your list. It's number one on my list as well. When we just talk about ACC matchups for that reason alone, that defense of Notre Dame. Whew.
I'm going.
I'm jealous.
I will be there for that.
Who do you know that I need to know?
Under the hood will be there. That's
Who
for
do
sure.
You know that I need to know for that, man.
That's a game that you should be at, Brother Brockett. Before we talk about Notre Dame, I'd like to ask you: is there any other teams that you'd like to talk about that have stood out?
Cal, I like Cal.
Doesn't belong in the conference. Please go ahead.
Well, see, if we didn't have expansion, none of this would even happen. Blame the Big Ten and SEC first for all that. But I like Cal. They're not a They're not going to be in the college football playoff. They're not going to contend for the ACC championship, but I do think we're going to see more improvement. They go get a new head coach in Tosh Lupoy, who was the defensive coordinator at Oregon. JKS is one of those quarterbacks that I had on my QBs the watch list that I dropped last week. Go check that out. Where, hey, I just want to see you grow. He was a true freshman. He didn't look terrible. He looked very good. 3,400 yards, 18 touchdowns. I like what they did. I just want to see them continue to grow. And can they continue to move up that upward trajectory? Outside of that, that's really where it stays. They play UCLA, they play Virginia Tech, they play Clemson. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to do a lot of different things. And when you come from that Oregon coaching tree, I think we can be very excited in what that defense will look like as they're starting to put some pieces together. So Cal is another team that I may not have high hopes on, but I'm very excited to see.
Nothing on Stanford or Boston College before we move on?
Andrew Luck is at Stanford.
Pitt?
Well, I like sandwiches in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just thought of that. All right. Make sure we covered it all. Wake Forest, Syracuse. All right. Not much.
Syracuse, nice little stadium. Needs some renovations. I think Kyan Anthony's going to be good, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like basketball. Yeah.
All right, then. So now we move on to the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the schedule out here. Oh, nice vacation schedule for Notre Dame, except for one big game, of course, that we're going to talk about on November 7th. But looking at the football schedule, Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, at Purdue. Well, if you really want to win in Indiana, you should go to Purdue. That's what I was told by the athletic director from Purdue. At North Carolina, Stanford, at BYU, the bye week on October 24th into Navy, and then Miami on the 7th of November, Boston College, SMU, interesting, and at Syracuse. How many losses do you see there, Darius Brockett, for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish?
If I had to put it realistic, English, I would say 2, and it's Miami. They have a chance to lose. And the game that you're sleeping on is BYU. You're sleeping on BYU. I love Agent 47. I love Bear Bachmeier. And I will start. I know that people haven't started calling him that. I will coin that and say that you've heard it here first. I'm stealing the Agent 47. BYU, Bear Bachmeier at quarterback. That's a good game. And it's weird because on paper that schedule looks very cupcakey but somehow it's going to be, when we're looking at the college football playoff committee, they're going to go, well, they had 3 ranked opponents on the schedule and yada, yada, yada. No, who cares? They had 2.5 ranked opponents. 2.5. Let's call it what it is. But I love Notre Dame. I think they obviously can be in the college football playoffs with that schedule. What bothers me about Notre Dame is not even Notre Dame themselves. It's the way that how they got blessed into the college football playoffs and got grandfathered in with that memorandum where if they're in the top 12, they're automatically qualified. That's something that bothers me. And I agree with Kurt Signetti when he said it last week. Hey, I would love to play Notre Dame twice. I would love to play them every year, but they would have to play us twice at our home and then once at theirs, and until they get in the conference and all that type of jazz. But outside of all that stuff, offense is phenomenal. I know you're replacing 2 first-round running backs. They have Aeneas Williams. They have Nolan James Jr., who will have to step in those roles. But you heard me talk glowingly about C.J. Carr earlier. Ball jumps out his hand. I'm looking to see him take that next step up. Jaden Grayhouse as receiver is going to be another fantastic year for him if he can stay healthy, another big body guy. But I'm looking at the freaking defense. Leonard Moore, lockdown corner. He's going to cut off half the field, and I think you just have to live with it. If you're any team that's playing Notre Dame on the defensive side, you have to just live with a mini Revis of game plan of having just one half of your field cut off, and you have to make things happen. The defensive line is going to be ferocious, but they play with a secondary that's by far some of the best in the country, best in the nation. They are man coverage. They're going to get in your face. And I love that Marcus Freeman's never changed that philosophy, not once. They have all the talent in the world to be undefeated. They're the only team in the Vegas odds that was given to have an 11-win season. And clearly, when you look at that schedule, it's built that way for a reason. But Luke Reynolds at tight end, they have a receiving room that's constantly growing with Quayshawn Brown and things. I cannot speak glowingly enough about Notre Dame and what they can do when they're playing at their best. When you look at that schedule, obviously they should win every game any given Saturday. But out of those 2 games that we highlighted the most, Miami and BYU, they should have an easy walk into in the park because who are you really scared of? Rice? Are you scared of Michigan State? Navy may give them a run for their money in the first quarter just because all the time that they're going to take in of taking off the clock. But
Yeah.
once you settle in, you're just like, okay, it's another game, and Notre Dame could easily waltz their way into the college football playoffs. I think the fun part about this is because they have two ranked opponents on that back end of the schedule that can really shape up their college football playoff performance. Because let's say they beat Miami and then they lose to SMU, that's going to be a bigger knock on that schedule versus them beating Miami. Or if it's flipped the other way, they have to at least go 2-0 or 1-1 in those games to really cement themselves in the college football playoffs.
CJ Carr, you were talking about, helped the Irish win 10 consecutive games last year, 24 touchdowns, 2,800 passing yards. Where do you place CJ Carr amongst the best quarterbacks in the country?
That is a loaded question because I don't know if I have him at top 5. I think he's a fringe top 10 quarterback, and hell, he could be sitting at 9 or 10, depending on how much time I have and who I can just name off the top of my head. And when I just start ranking guys off, and then just the usual when you're just ranking guys. But I do think he is a top 10, fringe top 10 caliber quarterback overall.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because we know how potent the running game was last year, and I felt like the running game was carrying Carr and that offense. Now, can the reverse happen? Can Carr be able to lead an offense? I'm not saying the running game will be slumping, but you know how strong it was last year.
Oh, that was 90-10. Like when we talk
Yeah.
about how that philosophy was, it was 90-10. I think with this team going around, the way they're setting themselves up, they don't want to fully depend on the run game. CJ Carr will use his legs. I know they'll still do their standard Notre Dame offense, hand that ball off up the gut, get it on the outside zone, get a couple sweeps in. They're going to find a way to use those moments, but when CJ Carr needs to make those throws, he will. I put him in the same realm of Julian saying and Arch Manning, and not in terms of greatness, but in terms of, hey, you did very good that first time we saw you. I want to see you make that next step. You're not a top 10 quarterback, but you are a very good developmental quarterback. Your arm is strong. Your reading of the game is strong. The commanding of your offense is always there. This will be, again, sophomore. Take that next step. I want to see you go a little bit further. Can you put the team on your back when you need to? And a lot of those games after Miami, he didn't really have to put the team on his back, but he just had to not mess it up. But I think when you look at the quarterbacks that they've had in the last 3 years, out of those 3, you have Sam Hartman, Riley Leonard, and now you have him. I think out of those 3, he's the best 3 under this Marcus Freeman era.
It would just be interesting to see Notre Dame be able to win with, the forward pass. I've been seeing this all my life of like the quarterback solid enough, running game, strong defense. They have been the prototypical old school Big Ten team forever. And so now the philosophical shift comes to play, Darius, on whether or not we will see Carr put the ball in the air and the receivers being as big a factor as the running game, or bigger factor than the running game. That I want to see what that offense looks like in that regard.
If they can do that, we're looking at possibly a top 25 offense in the country in terms of passing. And I think that is the most fun part of it all, is just, God, how good can they be and how good will they be when that time comes?
So tell us, man, how does this work out? Do you think in your gut that the Miami Hurricanes can go into Notre Dame and beat the Irish?
Yeah.
Man to man, stepping up, like personnel to personnel. We don't know what the schedule looks like. We know who the teams are playing, but from a personnel standpoint, what's your gut say?
Yes, and it comes down to the quarterback play. Darius Mensah, I think, is by far one of the most slept on quarterbacks in the country. You saw him at Tulane, and he looked really good. We seen him at Duke, and he won an ACC championship. Now let's see what you do when you give him Cooper Barkate plus Malachi Tony plus Mark Fletcher plus a defense that can get you the ball back at ease if they wanted to. I know when we talk about these two teams, we're talking about a game that's going to be very physical with the defenses, but your quarterback play matters the most. And I think when we always use that, I always default to experience. Experience is what makes you win those type of games and what makes you win those type of important matchups. And even if it's a 3-point game, 2-point game, 1-point game, experience is always the way to go.
All right, man. We're gonna get ready for week 0 right around the corner, but I know you're jacked up for this ACC. This is your conference right here.
Yeah. Let's do it, man. The ACC doesn't get enough love, and I blame you. I strictly blame you. You want to be a Georgia guy, you want to love the SEC, you want to talk about all these things that the SEC has, but here in the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, we got some ballers. Before you guys wanted to take conference quarterbacks, let's remind everybody the ACC was putting NFL caliber quarterbacks out there every Saturday, and they're still doing it to this day. So before we talk about the SEC this and the SEC that, let's remind everybody the ACC did it first, guys. This was the conference that everybody wanted to implicate and wanted to replicate and be just like them. Now, has it taken a couple steps back? Maybe,
Yes.
but is it on its way back? Yes. So let's calm down.
Okay. All right. We will calm down. A national championship out of that conference this year?
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Really? Okay.
Oh, trust me. I don't see the SEC having a national championship this year. Okay. I think it either goes Big Ten or ACC this year.
Well, I can't wait for some of those great ACC quarterbacks like Ethan Grunkmeyer to be able to get that done in the NFL. That's going to be so much fun. Grunkenmeyer.
He just might.
Yes.
He just might. The Gronk show is on. The arm. And he was loved at Penn State. He will be loved in Blacksburg. Trust me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. CJ Bailey lighting it up as a third stringer someplace with the Chargers. Yeah, just great quarterbacks of the ACC you're talking about.
Or a starter at the New York Jets. Who knows?
Which is the same. Which is the same thing. Tell people what you've been doing on Brocketology on YouTube.
So we are all in the preparation phase, ladies and gentlemen. We are now diving all into Maryland as that season starts. I'll be covering them intensively for all their home games. I'm going to try to dive into them a lot more, and I'm going to start getting into my weekly pregame stuff. I want to start talking about the conferences as a whole. I have games that you got to watch, some teams you got to watch, players you got to watch. But I think next week, as I'm wrapping everything up, I got to remember when I'm finishing up and when this come out with editing, my own editing. I will have a list out of my predictions of conference winners and my national championship game here. Again, I said it on here that either Big Ten school gets it or ACC school gets it. Mm-hmm. So that tells you who could be in my national championship playing going forward. But I'm excited, guys. We are now officially a week away. This time next week, we'll be looking at the clock in 24 hours and going, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're all itching. And look, I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of the rules. I'm tired of this 5 and 5. I'm tired of the class of 22 getting an extra year all of a sudden. Let's put it on the game. Let's hold. Everybody shush. Every lawmaker and judge that want to grant injunctions, just put your pen in your pocket. Get some popcorn, get a beer, get a hot dog, do whatever you do, and let's watch some football.
Even if you came from the NFL, let's just watch some football if you want to play in college. That's right.
Yeah. Hey, let's hope so. And let's not go backwards. The soapbox there that we could have, that's a whole nother hour of just kids. Like, nothing's clear in the rules here. They're coming back, but will we cancel games? This just feels like Texas Tech all over again, but just now fully open. I'm very much confused here. But this is why I'm not a judge, and this is why I'm not a lawmaker. I'm just a guy that likes to watch football just like everybody else.
Just like me.
We're all the same.
When you boil it down, we are all the same. You're correct. Don't forget to find Brockett Media. There's 2 T's in Brockett, by the way, like Rocket with the extra T, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm glad it's catching on.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is catching on like a pie in the face. That's right, folks. It's Brockett Media on YouTube, wherever you find your YouTube. And also there'll be more, as Darius has told you, as we get ready for the college football season. I cannot wait, man. I cannot wait. You've been great on these previews and been very patient with me. So thank you very much for your time, as always.
And for you, I give you a sneak peek. For you, exclusive here on your show.
Under the hood.
I'll tell you right now, SEC champion right here. Your Georgia Bulldogs. I love them so much. I know people don't talk about them a lot. I know you're talking about they're young, they're inexperienced. What can they do? What will they do? But we saw what happened with inexperience last year, and they beat Texas. You know who has a Texas-sized problem? Not Georgia. Georgia is getting the job done. Put those guys as my SEC champions.
Wow, how about that? How about that? And just in time for the season, because I do this every season, got to get a brand new hoodie. It will not be out until October. We're just going to wait, but it's still ready to go. Fresh hoodie for Georgia.
How do you, before we go, how do you feel about the white uniform, the white helmet? How do you feel about it?
I don't like it.
Wow. Really?
Like it. Yeah,
I love it.
Like
Are you a traditionalist?
Yep.
That's why.
But you know what, though? As long as my team wins, I don't care what they wear.
They look so good. I feel like this is what, like, you guys needed this. The white helmet gives it a different flair. It's like the spike collar all over again. It's like when they first bust out the black jerseys, like the original year when they came out with it. I thought you would have loved it.
Well, I would like that to see if there's some wins in those helmets. That's the question. Are you winning in those things? If not, you could throw them away.
Well, they're wearing them against a G6 school, so it should be a win in those things.
Well, we'll see.
Let's start it off. Let's start the tradition off right here, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. As always, man, I appreciate it.
Always. Thank you.
Darius Brockett with us here talking college football, ACC football, and Notre Dame, because they're kind of one and the same. Brought to you by Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. Check them out, nhschicago.org. That's where you find yourself a brand new home. Find out the learning and the lending process when it comes to buying your home at Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago. Don't go anywhere else. nhschicago.org and tell them Jonathan Hood sent you. We've been talking college football. We cannot wait for the season to start. Gave some ACC love. Make sure you leave your comments in the chat so we can continue the conversation about the ACC and the big game and the big week, as Darius told us. Circle Saturday, November 7th. It's my anniversary weekend. I don't care. I'm watching Notre Dame against Miami. And don't forget, all the college football conversation, the best of it is right here on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So long, everybody.